So at 2:54, I'm up. Now what do I do? 2:54. It's a little early in the morning. I usually start about 4 o'clock in the morning, but at 2:54, it's not as just like an hour ahead of 4 o'clock. It seems like almost another day ahead of 4 o'clock in the morning. In my town of Las Vegas, when most people are thinking about going to bed or perhaps ordering another adult beverage because they're doing so well at the crap table, I'm up and about. So it's 2:54 in the morning. I said, all right, let's dust it off and let's get it going. And I got to thank all of you Ron Paul supporters for helping me to figure out what I was going to do for the next, 2, 3, 4 hours as I was sifting through your 807 emails that you sent to the website at jerrydoyle.com. Now, the emails ran 806 to 1. 806 who was saying, thank you, we support you, thank you for supporting Ron Paul, a voice in the wilderness, the wolf at the Lone Mountain, all of that kind of stuff. And there was one guy who said that, I heard your comments about Ron Paul. He's dangerous for our country, and I will never listen to you again. So I guess 806 to 1 is a pretty good response rate. And I didn't have a chance exactly to email all of you back because, well, I wouldn't even be on the air yet if I tried to attempt to respond to 807 emails. I got through as many as I could. I read them all. I appreciate getting them all. And then I started to take a look at the response that the endorsement had in ways that I guess we can measure it. The YouTube views, which is out there, I guess it's Jerry Doyle endorses Ron Paul, 5,000 views on that pretty quickly. When I look at the Twitter, went from like 3,100 to 3,500. Facebook went from like 3,600 to 4,900. The emails were off the charts. We jumped to number 1 on TalkStream Live. You guys are on your game. And I could see why the political establishment is frightened of you. I can see why they'd be like, who are these people? And by the way, what do you call yourselves? Oh, besides, I also want to thank Michael Nystrom, who owns the website Daily Paul, and the gang at the Daily Paul for putting the story up and putting all the comments up. And you guys rock, and I really do appreciate all that. But I want you to keep in mind, this isn't about me. This is about you. This is about Congressman Paul. This is about the movement, and this is about me getting on board with, we'll call it Ronna Paulooza. I don't know what else to call your movement besides the Ron Paul Revolution, but I'll take what it is at 800-876-4123 that you call yourselves. What do you refer to yourselves as, you supporters of Ron Paul? Now, I know some people out there say kooks, lunatics, fringe group, tinfoil hat wearing loonies. And that's what some people say. But a lot of the emails that I got were also from people who were fans of my TV series Babylon 5. I didn't know you had a radio show. I loved your work on Babylon 5. Saw a lot of your character, Garibaldi, in your comments, in your endorsement of Ron Paul. And I started to think about the comparisons that could be made between the Ron Paul supporters and the science fiction fans. Science fiction fans, I wrote about it in my book. For those of you following at home, there's the cover. I put a big picture of my noggin on there. Actually, the publisher did. I didn't want to do it, but they thought it was something to do. The book, Have You Seen My Country Lately? I talk about science fiction fans. And for you Ron Paul supporters and those of you who have maybe no understanding of the Ron Paul supporters, I wrote this about science fiction fans. And I was talking about things that were made available to me because I was the chief of security on a plywood space station at a Warner Brothers soundstage, which is kind of weird in and of itself, but here goes. Science fiction fans have always been the stepchild of the industry. And the fans of science fiction have been unfairly criticized or ridiculed or mocked when, in fact, they tend to be members of the military, cops, firemen, minority communities, scientists, doctors, engineers. They like the science, and they are that forward-thinking group that looks at what the future holds. That, to me, is a large part of what the Ron Paul supporters are about. Very forward-thinking. Science fiction fans tend to be very logical, very fact-based. They tend to look at the here and the now and project to the future what the future might hold. And when I saw how, even at Warner Brothers, and the same thing holds true for my industry, because I heard from a lot of you, but I didn't hear from a lot of people in the industry. The tried and true Republican neocon outlets like the Drudge Report and Fox News and the American Spectator and, the others that, if Rush Limbaugh had a head cold, the future of the conservative movement would be at jeopardy and it would be flashing sirens on every website. The sixth largest show that I have endorses Ron Paul. Nobody happens to say anything about it. It's just like, whoa, make me believe it didn't happen. It's just, we're going to overlook it. We're going to pretend that it's just not a news item. And that's part of what the Ron Paul people's frustration has been, that they've been following this guy for a while. They've been studying his policies. They've been looking at who he is. They've been dovetailing that in with the direction that the country's going in, which I think most people would be in agreement, Ron Paul supporter or not, is not the right direction. And they're saying, what about us? Now, science fiction fans, when they have an opportunity to meet you at one of these sci-fi conventions, and if you want to know what a sci-fi convention can be like, watch the movie Galaxy Quest with Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver. It captures it like no other movie does. And within the science fiction community, there are always people that are a little off, a little out there, a little strange. And I'm sure there are, as there are in the Republican, Democrat, Green Party, All-Night Party, and the Ron Paul supporters. There are always a few people out there that are just a little, even people I worked with on the show. An actor in particular, Michael O'Hare, who was the series lead in the first series, he would get the script, and he'd go to the producers, and he'd say, I got the script. I just need the code. They'd be like, what? I need the code. This way I'll know what you're really telling me, and I'll be able to send that message. And I was like, wow, this guy's not going to be around too long. And he wasn't, because they got rid of him after the first season. But there's always, at these conventions, there's always that one person that kind of thinks it's real. Like, people would walk up to me, and they'd say, when you open up the safe in your quarters there, is it 27-13-43? I go, what? Because when I'm looking at the show and I slow it down, I go frame by frame, I think you're going 27-13-43. I go, you mean the combination on the safe? He says, yeah, is that the combination that you use when you open the safe? I'm thinking to myself, it's going to open no matter what I do, because that's what it says in the script. But this guy wants to know what the combination to the safe is, because he's that serious, and by some interpretations could be perceived to be a little out there. And I think the stepchild nature of science fiction fans relative to the industry, our publicity department at Warner Brothers, the woman who headed that up, hated science fiction. She would never promote Babylon 5, only when she was forced to, when they were doing the upfront, so we had to go out and meet the media in some of these rollout events. But she would intentionally, when requests came in for Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood, E!, whatever the case may be, she would go out of her way to dismiss the cast of Babylon 5 because she had a bias against science fiction. She just didn't like it. She just didn't get it in reality. But you take a look at the success and the longevity of science fiction, and then you come to find out there's a whole different world out there that exists. And I think it's the same thing to a certain degree with the Ron Paul supporters, that you've been diminished. You've been mocked. You've been, oh, you're the guys who live in your parents' basement, and, your Christmas wish list includes new Spider-Man pajamas, and you wear tinfoil hats, and you really have no connection to reality. When, in fact, some of the most insightful, articulate, deep-thinking, fun, engaging individuals that I've run across have been science fiction fans who embrace the science and love the idea of what is it going to look like in the future. And I think a lot of the Ron Paul supporters take a look at where we are and say, what if? And what if we continue to do the same? But what if we do this? And when are we going to do it? And the premise of that, sooner or later, we're going to have to leave this third rock from the sun, this big blue marble, and we're going to have to venture out into space because something's going to happen with a solar flare or a sunspot, or life on Earth as we know it is going to cease to exist, that we're going to be forced to go somewhere else. Some people think that's completely nuts. That's bonkers. That would never happen. But what if it does? And we're not ready. And I think a lot of the Ron Paul supporters are looking at, where does this all go if we continue to do what we're doing politically, if we continue to support the status quo, if we continue to allow the two-party system to retain its stranglehold, its death grip on freedom, free speech, liberty, democracy in America. And they have great concerns about where do we go from here. And they believe, as I do, that the way we go from here forward to have a better outcome without having to leave this planet, without having to leave this country, is that we take control of what we have now, put it back on course. And when I wrote the book, Have You Seen My Country Lately, I asked it from two standpoints. Have you seen it? Because I'm looking for it. I don't see it. And if you do know where it is, please tell me. And have you seen it lately? I really don't like what people have done with it. And I'd really like to be part of something that gets it back into a shape and a form and a belief and a movement that puts us back on the path to exceptionalism and sovereignty.
Doyle Show.
Exceptionalism, sovereignty, personal responsibility, constitutional principles, the rule of law, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not a happiness that's determined and dictated by a government that's trying to tell us how we can better live our lives when they don't even know how to do their own jobs. Maybe they should do theirs first, and then maybe then they'll have some, I guess, gravitas. I love to hate that word, to tell us what we should be doing with ours. 800-876-4123 is the number. What do you Ron Paul supporters call yourself? Because I know you're out there. I just want to know what you call yourselves. Jerry Doyle, give me a call.
Jerry Doyle.